Hello, y'all. Sorry, I'm just finishing everything set up here. I'm distracted. So if y'all are joining in, hello. If y'all are joining in, there's a poll going on. If you can just vote on that, so that way I kind of know what everybody wants to talk about today. It just kind of helps guide my thinking a little bit. And happy Monday. Going live a little bit earlier than I usually do today, so we'll see what happens. How's everybody's Monday going? The Mondays are like hit or miss. Enough of that. Glad to be home alone. Sometimes being home alone is just very peaceful, especially after all this nonsense. Happy Monday. Okay, guys, so like I said, there's a poll that is going on. I have it on the comments on Facebook and YouTube, and on TikTok. It's just right. It should show up as soon as you hop in. So just vote on what you want to talk about. Facebook and YouTube, y'all can just put it in the comments. Just so that way I kind of know what everybody needs to talk about. You haven't missed anything yet. We're still waiting to get started. I usually give it like a good 10 or 15 minutes when I first hop on before I start getting into the nitty gritty. So as of right now, it's looking like we've got some votes for, demonizing phase is actually leading the poll right now. And then no contact is right after it. I tell you what, the demonizing phase was so incredibly frustrating for me. I hate missing things. I usually miss the good stuff. Not missed any of the good stuff yet. Today is going to be a little bit of a quicker live today, you guys. Just a heads up. I have to hop off around 7 o'clock. My time. I don't know what time y'all are in. I'm like worn out today. I'm not going to lie. Not even necessarily from today, but the weekend was like incredibly busy. My kids, it was a very packed weekend for my kiddos. And 2 soccer games, a birthday party. And then Sunday we went and played soccer like for a long time outside. It's 6 in Kansas right now. Yeah, we're in the same time zone with that. So I'm like, it's the first time I've really like sat down today. So I've just been doing stuff around the house and everything. And I'm just like, whoa, I'm tired. So if I'm a little chill today, I'm sorry. It was a very busy week. It was a great weekend. Like I love those kind of weekends. Just being completely enmeshed in dad life, but it was busy. It's really fun. This is the first time that my kids have played like organized sports, so it's fun being a soccer dad, that's for sure. Hello, hello. You've helped me so much. Thank you for your videos. Oh, I appreciate that. Hey guys. So we'll give it like 2 more minutes and then we'll get started. As of right now, based on the poll of what people are voting on across the board, it looks like demonizing phase is winning the poll. So we can definitely talk about that today. The demonizing phase can be very, very frustrating, but I have tips and tricks on how to process it and deal with it. I'm doing good. I was just explaining to everybody. This is the first time I really like sat down today, and I was like, "Whoa, I'm worn out. I'm tired." It was a really busy weekend for the kids, and today has just been like I didn't have any patience today, so it was just one of those just get stuff done around the house day. Can y'all behave? So here's some like random crashing and stuff in the background. It's just my cat, and my dog. They've been quiet for the past hour, but of course, now that I'm live, they want to make a scene. I felt lazy. I had surgery 10 days ago. I'm trying to remember I'm healing. Yeah, I don't think laziness is a word when you're recovering from surgery. That's for sure. What? I'm thinking. I know you just need all the attention. Okay, let me make sure that nothing's really changed. Okay, so yeah, we'll talk about the demonizing phase. I don't think we've really talked about that on live a whole lot, and that seems to be the one that's leading the pack at the moment. Okay, so when it comes to the demonizing phase, this is one of those things that is kind of inevitable. So what I want to talk about first is a mistake that I made when it came to that. I was trying to avoid it. Now you have to remember, whenever I ended my relationship with my narcissistic ex, uh, I didn't have the knowledge that I have now. Like, I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know how these people operated. Okay, y'all need to stop. Y'all need to stop. You're being a distraction. And I have too much ADD brain for this. Because of course they're playing right next to me. I fell for a lot of things that I wouldn't have fallen for now that I know what I know and kind of like how they operate and stuff. And the thing that I fell for was the whole like, oh, let's stay friends thing. So give wherever platform you're on right now, like give me like some sort of thumbs up or something in the comments if they've tried to stay friends with you. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because the motivation behind that for me was to essentially avoid the demonizing phase. I didn't have the words for it back then, but essentially what I was trying to avoid was I was trying to avoid them like talking bad about me. Because I saw the way that he talked about his ex-husband. And so I was like, yeah, he's probably going to do the same thing to me, especially if I don't like play nice. I really didn't want to stay friends with him. Like, I was not in an emotional space where I wanted that. Because I was just kind of this hot mess express. But so I didn't necessarily want it, but at the same time, I couldn't really imagine my life without him because my whole concept of self was very much wrapped up in him. I'm so sorry, y'all. Okay, go somewhere else. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, told y'all you were gonna hear some kind of crashing. They've literally been quiet for like an hour. Now all of a sudden they want to play because now I'm busy and doing things. I don't even remember what I was saying. But yeah, so I couldn't imagine really what my life would have been like without him in it. And so it was like these two voices were going in my head. Like, part of me wanted that context still, and then another part of me was like, no, I'm not interested. But the biggest motivation for me to stay nice was I didn't want to give him a reason to talk bad about me. And here's what I ended up finding out. Because the things that I had been hearing at first were from a lot of like mutual friends. And one of the things that you'll find, at least in my situation, I can't say this is going to happen for every situation, but in my situation, the story that he told changed based on the relationship that they had with me. So like, if they were more my friend versus his, then it was a very different story. It was pretty general. and mutual friends. The story that he usually would tell to them, like people that actually had some sort of friendship or relationship with me, was, oh, there was just things that we couldn't work out. It's like, well, yeah, I guess that's one way to put it. But the story that he was telling to people that either didn't know much about me or didn't know me at all was very, very different. And it was completely fabricated. Like, we'll just say he got very creative in the story that he told. Um, and I didn't find this out until it had to have been like 2 months into all this mess. Because there was somebody that was actually his friend. I never actually met him in person, but it was someone that I was like Facebook friends with through him, and he ended up messaging me, and he was saying he kind of gave me he wouldn't tell me everything, but he gave me a Reader's Digest version of what my ex was saying, and it was the version of the story was that I was an alcoholic, that I never worked, that he had to pay for all the bills, and he had to pay for everything with my kids, and like all this stuff. It was stuff that like it wasn't even that whole typical thing that we hear about where they tell everybody that, I did what he was doing to me. Like it was literally this whole new fabricated story. And that's what made me realize it doesn't matter what I do. Like it doesn't matter how nice I am to him or if I'm a complete bitch. Like he's going to do this and he's going to talk bad about me. And the reason why is because it keeps him in this victim mode. And it makes him look like the one that was abandoned and all of that. And so what I had been doing for these past 2 months up until that point was I was compromising my own peace to avoid something that was unavoidable. Like, because every time that I've had some sort of contact with him, whether it was a good conversation, a mediocre conversation, a bad one, it didn't matter. And any conversation that I had with him, I had a literal physical response in my body. Like my chest would get tight, my heart rate would go up, my face would get flushed. Like it was essentially like a mini anxiety attack every single time that I talked to him. And so it just like was kind of this light bulb moment for me, or it was like, why am I doing this? Like why am I compromising, literally compromising like my body's peace to avoid something that I just can't avoid? Um, and this is the thing about it is that the demonizing phase is completely unavoidable. That there's going to be now some it could be like mine where it's completely fabricated. It could be other situations where they're going to say that you did everything that they did to you and it or something in between. But here's the main message when it comes to the demonizing phase. There's two main points that I want to make. Number one, when you become so grounded in your own truth and you can define your reality, you know what happened to you, you find a way to be at peace with what happened to you. The stories that are told about you have less meaning and they hold less weight because you're grounded in your own truth. And the other part with that is, and these kind of work together, there really is no point in fighting the demonizing phase unless it's legal. Like if you're in the legal system and they're doing all that, then absolutely do what you need to do. But I just got to the point where I just really didn't defend myself because there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one, if anybody's just going to believe a story about you that just completely contradicts your character, then this person was never really for you to begin with. Like if they just blindly accept it and they just move on, they were never really for you. And I know that that's frustrating, but in a way it was kind of like, he's purging my social circle for me. Like that's kind of how I looked at it. And really you're looking for kind of two responses from people. The people that really are for you, they're going to come to you and really not even have any questions for you because they know it's just complete crap. And then other people, they might come to you and give you the opportunity to share your side of the story. These folks, I would be a little bit careful with. Like anybody that wants to just like is coming to you like, oh, so I heard this from so and so. Like, what's your side? I would just be careful. If you don't 100% know that you can trust that person, I wouldn't share too much because what you might be dealing with is some sort of flying monkey, that's coming to get like your side of the story so they can go and report to the other person. So just be careful with that. So anybody that I wasn't 100% sure on, or that was a mutual friend or something like that, and I didn't know if they were still in contact with him, I just kept it very general. And this is what I said. I said this to every single person. I said, anytime two people get out of a relationship, they both walk away with their own version of what happened. He's entitled to his, just like I'm entitled to mine. And ultimately, my version is mine to keep. And I just left it at that. And if they asked any more questions, I just told them, I don't really want to talk about it. Because if you say something like that and then they're persistent of wanting to know, I don't trust that at all. Like, not at all. If they might just be saying, like, they might genuinely just be curious, but if you're not sure, just keep it something very simple like that. And the people that genuinely were just kind of wanting to hear your side of the story or whatever, they probably won't ask any more questions and they won't dig deep. But the ones that want the information, I question, why do you want to know so badly? But the other people, if you know that you can trust them, then maybe you are finding someone that you can confide in. You just really have to trust your gut on it. And I'll be 100% honest with you. I'm okay with leaning more onto the, like, paranoid side with this, and just, like, I'd rather be safe than sorry, you know what I mean? Because anything that you say that gets back to them will 100% be used against you. So just don't resist the urge of defending your honor. Definitely don't bring it up to them because they're just going to deny it. Like 100% they'll deny it. Or they'll just be like, oh no, they misunderstood what I was saying. Cause that's because I did that. Like I would bring up to him some of the things that were getting back to me. And he's like, no, that's not what I was talking about. Or no, I wasn't talking about you. They just misunderstood. Like I was talking about this guy that I was talking to the other, like, they're not going to admit it. They're not, like, if they've not held themselves accountable to anything else up until this point, they're not going to hold themselves accountable to this situation either. So just don't worry about it. Like, just it's literally just going to cause you more frustration. It's better just to know that it's happening and give you further evidence of why you need to start moving towards no contact. Even if it's limited contact, even if you do it in a progressive stage like I've talked about before, it's further evidence for you that you made the right choice, or that you being discarded ended up being a blessing for you in disguise. And I know there's a lot to being discarded and a lot of emotions, but getting out of that relationship, however it happens, it's the opportunity for you to start taking your freedom back. And this is just further evidence for that. So my kind of rule of thumb is the only time that you really defend yourself when it comes to the demonizing phase is in the legal system. That's pretty much it for me. Outside of that, people aren't going to believe it. If they're truly for you and they're truly on your side, or however you want to say it, they're not going to believe it. But the ones that aren't, they will. And unfortunately, it's just one of those things. It's one of those things that you just kind of have to get to this radical acceptance place of, like, you know what? For whatever reason, they're choosing to believe it. And that part, that doesn't matter to you. Like, it really doesn't, because it just tells you what you need to know about them. Okay, so I got a question. And by the way, if y'all have any questions, like, feel free to ask on this too. Because honestly, like, that's kind of like my main thing with demonizing phase. It's inevitable. Don't fight it. And the people that respond to it, just be careful. Like, don't share with people that you trust, that you know is a confident place to share it, if that makes sense. Sorry, my words aren't working very well today. I need more caffeine. Do you still get triggered anytime you do lives or just talk about the situation? I don't. That's a really good question. So that was actually one of the ways that I realized that I had let a lot of things go, was when I could start to talk about what happened with me and talk about my situation without having an emotional response. That was like my key. Oh, okay, I'm moving forward. I'm doing okay. I can actually talk about this without crying. I can talk about this without breaking down. And that all happened probably about, I would say it was, well, the time after the breakup doesn't really matter. Here's when it happened. I did like 6 weeks of very, very diligent work, like diligent work. I journaled every day. I was going to therapy every single week. I was putting into practice something called the wellness wheel. I was working on correcting like negative belief systems that I had with myself. I was working on breaking the image that I had of him in my brain. Like, I was doing a lot of work for 6 weeks. And it was after that 6 weeks that I was at that point where I could talk about it and I was okay, because I could see him for who he was. That was the only benefit that I had by saying, I don't recommend this, by the way, but the only benefit that I had by staying friends with him or staying in contact with him for a few months is, as I was learning about these things, I was seeing it play out right in front of my eyes. Because by the way, all the manipulation and the lying and all of that and the gaslighting and blame shift, none of that stuff stops just because the relationship ends. Like they are who they are and it's going to continue. And but as I was growing in knowledge about it, I was seeing it. And I just got to the point where I was like, I don't want him involved in my life at all. Like there's nothing that I could benefit from him being in my life. So when I got to the point where I could talk about my experiences, but like now when I talk about them, sorry, I'm rambling at this point, but when I talk about them now, it's almost like I'm telling not someone else's story, but I'm so far removed emotionally from my own story that it doesn't necessarily trigger me. Um, I will be honest. I've been out for in May. It'll be 3 years. There are times where I still deal with flashbacks though, but because I have the tools and stuff to deal with triggers and that kind of thing, they don't affect me nearly as much as they used to. It's just kind of one of those things where I think about it and I'm like, wow, I completely forgot he did that. What an ass. And then I just can kind of move on. Which, by the way, with that said, I want to make sure that you all know I have started something called Trey's Tribe, which is a coaching community, and it talks about what we're going to be talking about in this thing is it's strictly about implementation and it's strictly about healing. It's really not going to, I'm not going to talk in the community a whole lot about narcissistic traits and like all this kind of stuff. I'm really going to be focused in that in the coaching community about moving forward and not just getting over the narcissistic individual, but really like rebuilding your life and giving strategies on how to manage triggers and getting strategies on how to manage your emotions and all of that. And right now I'm doing something that's called a founding member offer because this is still somewhat in the concept phase for me. So I'm looking for people to join in early, like now in the groundwork, so that way you're able to give me direct feedback. I've already done this with the people in there that have already joined, but I've like sent a form out. It's like, hey, what's stuff that you want to see on there? What are some live events that you think would be good? Like I'm wanting to get this direct feedback from all my founding members so they can kind of help create this with me and help build this up. The founding members, they get it for 25 bucks a month and it's locked in. Like as long as you're in the community, that never changes. We'll work together for like a month or two, and then I'll probably relaunch it in June. But at that point, it will be a higher price. So if you're interested in that or you have any questions, please send me a DM. You can either send me a direct message on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. If you're watching on YouTube, just send it to me on another platform. And you can also, the link in my bio and all my platforms has that. You can get more information too. But send me a DM and let me know if you have any questions. But I have launched that. The offer is good through this Friday. Like that's when it ends, and I'm closing the registration for that. But I just want to make sure that you guys know about that also. I'm really excited about it. The coaching community is something I've been thinking about for a very long time. And I think there's enough information out there. And I think we just need more of the how to's. Like, how do I deal? Like, those are the questions I get all the time. How do I deal with this? How do I process this? Like, how do I understand this? And that's what we'll be doing in the community. There's enough info out there about narcissism and all of that. But that's what I needed is the how-tos. So again, the founding member offer, it's only 25 bucks a month. It's Trey's Tribe. It's a coaching community completely off social media. It's all exclusive content. Everything in there is private for the group. So send me a DM if you have any questions about that. We'd love to have you on there. Let me see, make sure I have an answer. I don't know why I'm winded. Like, did y'all hear that? Like, I'm out of breath. Dun, dun. What do you do when your ex is friends with your best friend's husband? Ooh. I'm gonna repeat that again while I'm thinking about it. What do you do when your ex is friends with your best friend's husband? Okay. So there's a couple things that you can do with this. First, well, sorry, I'm trying not to be sassy. I'm just gonna do it. Okay, so I had a problem with people that were in my life. Now I understand it's not your best friend, it's your best friend's husband, so it's a little bit different. But I'm just gonna say this in general, just for everybody. Any friend of mine that chose to still be friends with my abuser indirectly chose to not be friends with me. Like, I'm sorry. If you know what they did, if you saw it, if you witnessed it, and you're still choosing to be friends with my abuser, I don't want you in my life. That's a little bit of a side note from that question, but just understand that. I didn't like what that said about them. Like, how could you know what this person did to me and you still want to be involved in their life. It was baffling to me because for me it tells me one of two things. They're either well, three things. They're either so non-confrontational that they are willing to compromise their beliefs to keep someone in their life because they don't want to make waves. Number two is they're a flying monkey in disguise, and maybe they were never really for me like I thought they were. And number three, they also might be terrified of what they would do too if they cut them out. But so for me, it's just like, okay, well, if you want to play Switzerland or still be friends, like then we're good. Like I still hope that you eat and you be successful, but you're not going to eat at my table anymore. That's a side note. In this situation, since it's very specific, it's not your friend that's staying friends with him, it's your friend's husband. I would, and I hate this, but this is just at least temporarily. I don't know how long you've been out of the specific situation, but for at least temporarily, I would just guard what you say, especially to the best friend's husband, but to the maybe to even to your best friend too. Like you have to set some kind of firm ground rule with your best friend that this stays between us because I do not want this getting back third party to my ex. And whether it's a safety issue, whether even it's just your personal peace issue, you have to lay that groundwork because I've actually coached somebody in a very similar situation to this. And it is hard. Like it was where, so the situation was, there is a friend situation. It was not a romantic relationship. They were best friends. They had the falling out. The narcissistic friend and then my clients, both of their husbands were still friends. So it was a little twisty because the husband, the narcissist husband, wasn't the issue. It was definitely her. Um, and you have to be careful. Like for a little while, I just wouldn't say anything that you wouldn't want to get back to them right off the bat. Um, and just be guarded with that. Or if you have that relationship with your best friend, like I said, just set that firm before you start the conversation. This needs to stay between you and me. I've not said it to anybody else. So if it does get back to my ex, then I know where it came from. And then at that point, we're going to have an issue. Like just plain and simple. But you're just going to have to be a little guarded. Um, I mean, you just are like, and that's the unfortunate thing because I hate that it affects like the relationship with your best friend too. But just be careful with protecting your own peace. It's okay to be a little bit overprotective of it, and that's not going to be forever. But until the dust has settled, because you never know, the relationship with the husband might fizzle out. Like you never know, and maybe it won't. I don't know. But the more that you will focus on you and your healing and processing and reaching acceptance, even if things do start to get back to your ex and back to you and vice versa, they're not going to affect you as much because again, you're grounded in your own truth and you're grounded in your healing. The other thing that I would do is I would set a boundary or ground rule, whatever you want to call it, with your best friend and your ex that they do not give you updates about your ex. Period. Like set that firm. I don't want to know, good, bad, or ugly. It's not going to help me. It's not going to serve me. Like, please don't tell me. And if they don't honor that, then you might have to distance yourself for a little bit. I know it's probably not the answer that you want to hear, but unfortunately, that really is the truth. Um, sorry, all my comments still just like come in all the time, so I'm like trying to read them right now. I'm sorry. Mm-mm. How do I know that they are a narcissist? Okay, so I don't necessarily get very wrapped up in the label itself, like if they are a narcissist or NPD or anything like that. I don't really think that the label matters. What I do think matters is their patterns of behavior. Do you feel safe with this person or not? Do you feel like your insecurities are being held against you? Do you feel like you are the one that's always in the wrong? Do you feel like, well, you can ask yourself, have I ever gotten a genuine apology from this person? Um, are you always wondering what version of them is coming home? Are you walking on eggshells to avoid confrontation? Is there such a thing as healthy confrontation in that relationship? The label ultimately doesn't matter because at the very least, if the answer to most of those questions is no, then at the very least you're just dealing with a very toxic situation. There's also situations where people bring the worst out in each other. It's not that necessarily either one of them is a narcissist, but maybe they're just bringing out the worst in each other. And um, so I would just kind of ask how the relationship makes you feel. And if anything, if you just don't feel emotionally safe in the relationship, then you might want to reevaluate certain things. Um, a, a pretty like standard sign that you can do is try to hold them accountable or set a boundary. And if they have issues with either one of those, like a massive response to either one of those, you might be dealing with a narcissistic individual because they do not like boundaries. They do not like being accountable. They don't like that stuff at all. Not just don't like it, they hate it. So, because if you set a boundary, then that removes power and control from them. Um, so that's kind of a telltale sign, honestly. We had someone comment, I don't like to say names, by the way, so I just like to say someone, just in case I ever post replays. I try to respect y'all's privacy. But catching them in lies, they'll deny things, lack of intimacy, lack of consistency is a huge one. So those are some comments that we got on over on YouTube. So those are just some ways that you can just evaluate and just see how the relationship makes you feel. If you feel very alone in the relationship, again, they may not necessarily be a narcissist, but it just may not be the right one. Okay, what other questions do you guys have? Personally, I just like the Q&A part. So again, while we're waiting on questions, I just want to, in case anybody is hopping on just now, I've launched something called Trey's Tribe. This is a coaching community that's completely removed from social media. And the whole goal of the coaching community is to focus on really stuff like what we're doing right now. So if you like this kind of stuff where it's talking about like how-tos, like how do I deal with this situation? Like how do I process a certain thing? That's what we're going to be doing in the coaching community. And that's what all the content about it is going to be surrounded by. One of the things I'm thinking about doing is having some sort of like guest come into the community every single month and talk about what worked for them and their healing strategies and all of that, just so you can hear different perspectives. But all the content in general, if y'all saw me do questions in a jar a couple weeks ago, that's something that we're going to do on a monthly basis, but it'll just be in the community. Content that we post is all going to be based on healing and how to move forward. And it's not the information that's related to it will be about the healing part, not necessarily about like narcissism, narcissistic traits. It's the stuff that you need to move forward. So we're doing what's called a founding member offer, where I'm inviting anybody that wants to into the community to help me build it, really, to give me the feedback of this is what I think would be good. These are ideas that I had about it, just so that way I'd rather build it with y'all than me trying to build something and it's like not valuable, if that makes sense, because y'all know what you need. I know what I needed at the time. So I've sent forms to people that are already in there, like, hey, can y'all fill this out? Give me feedback. What do y'all want to see? So this offer, it's only through March 31st, and then I'm closing the registration. It's only $25 a month. And your rate will stay the same. Like it will never change, because when I relaunch it after a couple months of working with all the founding members, it will go up because at that point it's built. So I am anybody that's interested, or if you have any questions, please just send me a DM. I would love to answer any questions that you have. It is still in the concept phase, so I may not have the answer, and I'll tell you. But just send me a DM if you have questions, and then you can also go to the link in my bio too. Sorry, I had a couple come in at one time. I have trouble letting go of the past from narc relationships and toxic relationships at work. I've dealt with toxic relationships at work too. Actually, some of the worst mental abuse I dealt with was at work. Um, a lot of times, I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard of the term rumination. That's kind of like one of my favorite things to talk about, because it was the thing that I struggled getting over the most. But a lot of times, if we're stuck, like not being able to let go of the past, or we're constantly thinking about it or we're ruminating over it, there's a couple things that could be going on. But one thing that I think is pretty standard is that we're stuck trying to understand everything that happened to us and not realizing that there is a big fundamental difference between understanding and accepting it. We don't have to understand everything. Not that we don't have to, we're not going to be able to understand everything, but we do have to reach acceptance, because if you can't accept it and just own it, that it's part of your story, then it's really hard to move forward from it, because we're stuck just trying to make sense of all of it. And it's like, I don't know if anybody can relate to this or not. And before I go off on a huge tangent on this, can y'all give me like a thumbs up or something if you feel like you struggle with the obsessive thinking part? Because I can talk about this for a while. Um, but so if you are, when we get stuck into this place of like trying to make sense of all of it, you can't. And the reason why is because you're not like them. Like you're not capable of doing the things that they do. Like one person, even over here on TikTok, they said, I struggle to understand how someone can treat you so badly and then walk away like they didn't do anything. There's a reason for that because you're not able to do that. Like you're not capable of that. So, in order for you to really truly understand this, you have to reduce yourself down as a human being to their level in order to understand it. But that doesn't mean that you can't accept it. And acceptance is, you can almost think about it as embracing without understanding. You know what? I'm not going to understand all of this. And quite frankly, I don't want to understand all of this because I think the more that I understand, the more painful it would be, or just whatever the case might be. Because when we get wrapped up in this, like, okay, when kids, like I have 3 children, and when they're like working on math or something like that, and they get to a certain part in the equation and they can't figure it out from there, what do they always say to their teacher? They say, "Teacher, I'm stuck." Because when you can't reach the answer that you're looking for, you literally feel stuck. And that was a big part that I had, was that I was so busy just trying to understand it and wrap my brain around it that I wasn't able to move forward from it until, and it was like I could figure one thing out. Like I would have this one question in my mind and I would sit there and ruminate over it and try to piece things together and I would come up with an answer. And then it's like that led to 6 more questions. So it's just kind of like this endless cycle. Um, but being able to accept it without understanding it, to me, that's crucial. Like it's not even crucial. That's not the right word. It's it's impossible to move on without reaching acceptance. There's always going to be some part of you that's holding on to it, and not in a way where you're still attached to them like emotionally, but like where it's almost like reaching the stage of bitterness about it, where you don't trust other people or all of that. Um, so if you really want to be able to heal and move forward and let it go and be able to work on the things that it's like, okay, well, what's happened to me in my life that's allowed me to accept these kind of behaviors from somebody? You have to just accept that it's happened in the first place. If you think about, I've not been through any kind of like addiction program, but I know about them. And if you think about it, almost all of them is the first step is just admitting that you have a problem. It's just accepting that it's there. Because how do you move forward from it if you've not accepted it? Um, hey. so so yeah, that's like the biggest thing that I see, and I walked through that, so I understand that, and that's why I know that that's a big thing that we all deal with, is because it is just like a total mind f with what happens to you, and we want to understand it. I'm a why guy. Like I'm going to grad school and I'm going into the medical field. I love studying the brain. I love trying to, I want to know the why behind things. So it's very, very difficult for me to just like accept it and just move on. So I don't say that flippantly, like, oh, this is so easy. Like, no, it's not. But you do have to find ways, which again, this is one of the things that we'll talk about quite a bit in the coaching community. So if you are struggling with this, like, please send me a DM and ask me any questions that you have, because this is something that we all struggle with. And one of the things that we're going to be working on in the coaching community is how to actually redirect your thinking to where we don't get stuck in trying to understand, but we move into this acceptance phase with how we talk to ourselves, how we look back on our situation. Are we accepting it, or are we still questioning if we were the problem or not? Instead of being like, oh, it was always my fault, or I was such an idiot, I was so stupid, or blah, blah, blah. We redirect our thinking, because what's happened in these relationships is we've unfortunately built really bad mental habits, and bad habits don't just break. They have to be replaced with healthier habits. And this is going to be a big, big foundation of what we do in Trey's tribe, in the coaching community. So if you are struggling with that, just send me a DM. Just sending me a DM is not a commitment. It's just asking and just getting information. So feel free to do that, please. And like I said, the reason why I'm very passionate about that topic is because ruminating and the obsessive thinking, it was by far the hardest part for me to get over. No questions asked. This is a good question. How do we turn the logic that we understand into the actions we need to take to heal? Well, again, this is something that we're going to be focused on a lot in the tribe, but just like a quick free nugget for y'all. The big, what I'm gonna kind of spin this question a little bit. The biggest question that, or not question, sorry, I need more caffeine. My brain is not working today. Um, One of the biggest mistakes that I see people make is we get to this place, and again, I said this exact same thing to my friends. I felt like my head had all the knowledge, but my heart was completely disconnected. So it's like I could see him for who he was. I could predict his moves almost. I could see the manipulation. I had the logic, but I still felt connected to him, or I still felt like I missed him, or I still was just having these emotional attachments or whatever. And it was like my heart was three steps behind my brain. And it was so frustrating. One of the biggest mistakes that we make that keeps that disconnect is we allow our feelings to determine our actions. And what I mean, I'm going to just use a metaphor. So I've been on somewhat of a health and fitness journey for 5 years. At this point, I used to weigh like 270 pounds. I was a pretty big boy. Um, Even to this day, now I'm not a gym rat or anything, but even to this day, I don't feel like going to the gym. Very rare that I feel like it. And I'm usually bitching the entire time I'm getting ready to go. Like, especially, oh God, especially if it's in the morning. Afternoon, it's not quite that bad. But in the morning, just don't talk to me. Like, I won't be pleasant. I will just tell you right now, it's one of my toxic traits. But I go anyways. And because I know it's good for me and I know it's what my body needs. And I know I get the endorphins and I know it helps me stay in a healthier shape. I know that because I've been working out, I don't have liver enzymes any issues anymore. I don't have blood pressure, high blood pressure. I'm able to play with my kids. Like yesterday, I went out and played soccer with my kids for 2 hours. I wouldn't have been able to do that 5 years ago. I do it because of that, are not feeling based. And a lot of times we get very stuck in letting our feelings determine our actions as opposed to just doing what we know is right, and the feelings will actually catch up. Because when I go to the gym and I start doing my thing, after a few minutes, I start feeling better and I start to feel proud of myself that I did it. And I even tell myself, like, I'm so proud that I did this because I did not want to do this. And when you do the right actions, the feelings will actually start to follow. The problem is that we kind of want Dr. Carrie McAvoy used a great illustration with this, and it's kind of like trying to get the dog to walk through the dog door through by its tail first. It's like you have to lead with the logic, lead with the head, not the tail, and the feelings will follow. And sometimes it takes trial and error. Like you can have all the logic and all of that too, but you might need to just try certain techniques and just see what works for you. Because for me, one of the things that worked really well for helping me process was journaling. That doesn't necessarily work great for everybody. I think everybody should at least try it because it did work very well and everybody recommends it, but it may not be. And maybe your version of journaling is different than mine. Like maybe journaling for you is a guided journal, or maybe it's video blogging, or just doing voice memos. Like for me, it was just freehanding in a journal. Um, Working out was a huge part of my healing journey. That just getting myself active again and eating healthier and all of that. Quality time with my friends, but what worked for me may not work for you. So, and you have to just do some trial and error. One of the things I say in my group coaching all the time is if I give y'all strategies and you go and try it and it's not working, it's not that you failed the strategy, it's that the strategy has failed you. So we just need to try another one. So it's better to make that effort and do what you feel like is right for you. Well, ironically, do what you know is better for you. Like I know that it's better for me to do my nighttime routine and just to take 10, 15 minutes to take care of myself than to just go from the couch to the bed. That one simple step, it tells your subconscious that you're worth taking care of. So even if that's the best that you can do this week, that's still something. It's still something that's giving back to you. Um, I hope that answered that question in some way, form, or fashion. I got on a side tangent rabbit hole. Okay, so someone asked, "Oh, I got a corgi." Tinks, I have a corgi too. So someone asked, "I'm healing from betrayal because my husband had an affair. Can you give some tips?" The biggest tip that I can give when it comes to the cheating and the affairs and all that, because if y'all want to talk about my rumination cycle, that's what I was stuck in the most, was just trying to I just it just I've never I don't even know how I want to word this. It felt like I was if y'all have y'all ever had that dream when you were a kid that you showed up to school in your underwear? That's what it felt like to me when I figured out that he had been cheating. I just felt very exposed. Um, and I didn't understand it. Like, I was always physically available. I was the one that was actually getting rejected, not vice versa. Um, and what I had to realize was that him cheating on me really had nothing to do with me because I started to piece together that, okay, maybe his ex husband did cheat on him, but I'm pretty sure that he cheated on his ex-husband too, because the story that he used to feed me was, "Oh, my ex-husband cheated on me. I can never do that to somebody because I know how much that hurts." And then he cheated on me for the last 5 months of our relationship, and it just made me realize that this is just who he is. Like it has nothing to do with me. I could have been the perfect partner. I was always physically available. I probably never would have told him no, um, and he still did it. And it's because it's who he is. It's not a reflection of my lack of worth. So when it comes to affairs, and I'm sorry, I don't I here's just how I feel about it. I don't care if the relationship is perfect or not, or if there is some sort of logical reason for it. It's still a line that shouldn't be crossed. And I've worked with people, like I've worked with clients who their work like it they cheated on their abuser. Like we can understand why we cheated. We can understand all of that, because like yes, they weren't feeling intimacy and there was a disconnect and all this and they found it in this other person. Like we can understand all of that. But they're the first ones to tell you like, but I'm having trouble forgiving myself because I know that's not right. Well, it's the same thing. I don't care if I was perfect or not. That's still a line that just shouldn't be crossed. But in this situation, like with the abuse and the abused with a D, it is a reflection of them. It is a reflection of the brokenness that's going on in their life and the parts of themselves that they don't want to heal. And like I said, if it's the reversed, like yes, it is important to acknowledge it's still a line that shouldn't have been crossed, and we can understand all of it and all of that, like we can. But if you were, since I brought it up, if you did do, oh my God, my words, if you did cheat on the abuser, then a big important step for you is to move towards forgiveness for yourself. Like 100% it is. And yes, we can understand it. We know what's wrong and all of that, but you do have to get to the point where you can forgive yourself. And because I don't think that you have to forgive your abuser, but I do think in general you have to figure out how to forgive yourself. Period. End of story. But that's just something that I had to do, was just not internalize. Sorry, this thought just came to my head. I had to not internalize his choices, but in a way as well, if you made decisions in this relationship that you regret or that you feel bad for, in a way, you also have to not internalize your own decisions because of the abuse that you were going through. Like if you made decisions that are contradictory to your character, then that's also an evidence that this person was not for you, because this person should not bring the worst out in you. I dealt with some very reactionary kind of actions that I had too. And I had to not internalize those completely. Like, yes, I still shouldn't have reacted. I still shouldn't have, XYZ. But I had to not internalize my own actions because of the situation that I was in. It's still about forgiving myself to where it's like I'm not going to internalize these actions as a reflection of me. It's a reflection of the situation that I was in. It's still not okay. And I can accept that, but I understand where it came from. Am I making sense? I don't know if I am or not. I feel like I'm going all over the freaking place. Words are hard. Thanks, Liz. They are, though. How long were you together with him? 18 months. We lived together for 10 of those months. Sorry, like I said, I've literally filled all the comments will just come in at like one time. So I am just catching up on them. And they're delayed on Facebook and YouTube also. Okay, here's a good one that came in through Facebook, so I will read this to you guys. So Trey, how do you elaborate loving yourself? I still have a hard time with the concept of loving myself and how to do it. That's a good question. Um, when it comes, okay, so we'll focus on the how to part. Just for time's sake, because oh yeah, it's already almost 7 because I had to hop off here in a few minutes. So with the how to part, and again, quick plug really fast before I answer this question since I have to be almost done. This kind of whole topic of like loving yourself and how to heal and how to process and like all of this kind of stuff, this is literally the heart of the coaching community that I'm starting. And like I said, I am inviting people to be what are called. I have a hair sticking out through my hat. Do y'all see that? I couldn't even do that if I tried. Um, but what I'm doing is I'm doing what's called a founding member offer, where I'm looking for people to come in right now at the groundwork and give me the direct feedback and help me build this and help give the content ideas and what live events you want to see and all of that, and really kind of help structure it. I have a concept, but I would like to work with people and get their direct feedback on what to do. So founding members is only 25 bucks a month. It stays that way as long as you're part of the community. We're going to work together for like a month or two, and then I'm going to relaunch it in June, I think, and it will be a higher price in June. But like I said, for founding members, it stays the same. It's completely focused on healing. It's completely focused on how to set healthy boundaries, how to work on your self-worth and your self-value, how to love yourself, all of these kind of things. Because for me, getting over the narcissistic person is just step one. There's so much more to do after that. Not that really isn't about dealing with the narcissistic person. It's about building a new concept of self so that way we don't fall into these traps again and we value ourselves enough to not tolerate this behavior from people. So if you're interested in that, please send me a direct message. You can send me a DM on Facebook, on Instagram, or here on TikTok as well. I think if you're on YouTube, I don't think that there's DMs on that. I don't even know. So just send me a direct message if you're interested or have questions, and I will make sure to answer them. And you can also just go to the link in my bio as well. So when it comes to how to love yourself, this is actually not as complicated as I used to make it out to be, because I used to just not understand it. Like to be totally honest, I just didn't. Um, but it's doing small things like on a daily basis that show you that you're worth taking care of. So even something as simple as like doing a morning routine or doing your nighttime routine, like all that, like those simple things, like just taking that 20 minutes a day to just do nothing but take care of you and not feel guilty about it, that tells your subconscious, I'm worth taking care of. Doing things that naturally just fill your cup up. So doing things that you enjoy, like meaningful activities, spending quality time with friends, quality time with family, your spiritual journey, your having 20-minute dance parties in your house, you going out and getting physically active or just doing arts and crafts, like doing things that you enjoy. It's what that does it's almost kind of, I don't, this is such a lame metaphor because I hear people use it a lot, but it's like, the whole concept of like the love bank. Like, okay, well, if you're putting deposits in people's love bank, but it's kind of the same thing with you. Like you have to fill your cup in order to really be able to do anything else, to be the best mom, to be the best dad, to be the best spouse, to be the best worker, like whatever it is. Like you have to take this time to take care of yourself, and that's showing yourself love and showing yourself value. And the other part to it is how you talk to yourself, because I was, and I still struggle with this sometimes if I'm being real with y'all, but I struggle duh, with negative self-talk, like being really self-deprecating, like, and it's the small things when you do this. Like, I was talking to this was a while ago, but if y'all follow like Stronger Than Before, Lisa Stoney, she and I are pretty good friends, and she was calling me because she was on her way to the grocery store. She's like, yeah, I left my grocery list at home like a freaking idiot. And I was like, don't talk to yourself that way. Like I flat out called her out. I was like, don't do that. Like, would you call your kid an idiot if they forgot the grocery list? Okay, no, then why are you talking to yourself that way? And just doing these small, simple things where you show yourself more respect and show yourself more love. If you wouldn't talk to your child, or you wouldn't talk to even just a stranger on the street in that particular way, then why are you doing that to yourself? And when you do that, especially with the self deprecating talk, this is a big one for me. When you do that, you're actually keeping yourself stuck in a cycle of emotional abuse. Just the difference is you become your own abuser. So I know that was kind of a quick answer, but honestly, like that's a big topic. I could probably do a whole live on just that or something, because that it is hard and it is a concept that is difficult to understand. Um, so so Teresa asked, how do I become a founding member? So to become a founding member on the tribe, just send me a DM on whatever platform you're watching this on, except for YouTube. Go over to Instagram or Facebook or TikTok and send me a DM. Um, so just like I said, just send me a DM if you have questions. Send me a direct message. Sending me a DM isn't signing up. It's just inquiring. And if you do know that you want to sign up, there's also a link in my bio. Except I don't think I've added it on Facebook now that I'm saying that. So just send me a DM if you're on Facebook, and then we can go from there. But again, I'm really excited about this coaching community right now. What we're doing is, well, A, I'm just getting feedback. I have a form that everybody's filling out and what they want to see and all of that. But we're doing like daily challenges where I send the message out like, hey, I want you guys to focus on this. I want you to do this today. Find 3 things that you're grateful for, blah, blah, blah. So I'm really excited about it. It's also a sense of community too, where you can connect with other survivors. And one of the things um, that I thought about, and I want you guys to consider when it comes to the tribe too, is that you may never want to do what I do, and I say it every time I say this. I wouldn't blame you. It's hard, but that doesn't mean you can't have some sort of impact on the survivor community as a whole. Maybe this and helping build this whole thing with me is your way of making a mark on the community. Maybe you have that one person um, that you can connect with on their story in a very different way than I can. Because even though our experiences are so similar, there's still uniqueness to all of our stories, and people are going to connect with each other in a different way than they can connect with me. And maybe you were able to be that person to help break that sense of isolation. Um, so that's just something that you can consider too. It is a community, number one, but it's a community focused on moving together in the same direction of reaching new heights when it comes to how you view yourself, how you love yourself, and how you value yourself. So please send me a DM if you're interested. It's the thing I'm most excited about right now, to be totally honest with you. So like I said, guys, I'm sorry this is kind of a quick live. Usually I go longer than an hour, but I just have some other things that I've got to get done. But I always appreciate you guys coming on and asking questions. I think that I'm definitely going to start trying to go live more. I say that every time, and then I get busy and forget and do that whole thing of like where like, oh, I don't feel like it, and then that's a great example of I let my feelings determine my actions. So I'm getting better about it. But I hope that you guys have a great evening, a great finishing start to your Monday night, and I will probably be live again. I think I'm planned on going. Yeah, I'm going live again tomorrow night. I don't know exactly what time. It'll probably be around the same time between 5:30 and 6 Central, maybe a little bit later. So, love you guys. Thank you for the questions. And even if this is all that you do, just comments and comment on lives or anything like that, if this is all that you do, even with that, I just am very grateful that you allow me to be even a small part of your healing journey. It's a bigger honor than you will ever know. So I hope you guys have a great evening, and I will see y'all soon. Bye, you.